Sorry for a live stream on my phone, but we'll get to that in a bit. So it's 2023 and you haven't seen anything from me for months. I've done the odd community post, but there hasn't been any form of proper video on the channel. And I'm going to kind of explain why, what's been going on, and what to expect going forwards. So 2022, you may have kind of gathered, was not my easiest of years. It was quite hectic, as my life tends to be. But it was a good hectic. It was just basically hectic to the point where I had to prioritize my own mental well-being, and we had deadlines, a lot of projects, a lot of deadlines, and a lot of it I wish I could show you, but some of it I can't. So you may have seen little bits of like leaking tidbits on my Twitter feed where you might see a screenshot here and there, or the odd post that kind of alludes to something. But largely, there hasn't been a lot publicly shared. So you also would have known that last year I did a few streams saying this was coming or videos were on the way and all this stuff, and it didn't come to anything. Quite often the videos were either just didn't get released or they've been released but not here. And again, I'll kind of clarify that right now. So what basically happened or has been happening is there's been this kind of stark return that I've had to face. So when I set the channel up around 2029 was when we kind of got active, 2020, 2021, during the pandemic, I was largely working from home, which meant I had a lot of time to produce content, create tutorials, and just focus on churning out information and tutorials and focusing a lot on Spark AR as I was kind of playing about with it anyway at the time. But then 2022, things changed. Mainly, as you're probably aware, I have a job. YouTube is not my full-time thing. It's something I just do as and when I can. But my job kind of in 2022 meant that I was obviously working at the workplace. Instead of working from home, I was working at where I work, 9 till 5. So that was basically meaning I had a lot less time to produce videos. So I was coming home, I was knackered, and I was just worn out. So the time I would normally spend making a video, which would be normally on the evenings or weekends, I was just too drained. That was on top of, as part of my job, I do a lot of external projects for clients and businesses that will come to my workplace, and I'll be tasked against them to produce typically digital consultancy or XR related pieces. So a lot of 3D scanning is actually what I've been doing a lot of over the last 2.5 years. Where that wasn't a problem, that didn't impede my content creation during the lockdown, because that was my time, but it wasn't taking 9 to 5. It's taking a couple of hours a day or a week out of my time. And because I was working from home, it was largely waiting for Teams calls or an email to come in. So it didn't impede me from kind of doing stuff on the side, so to speak, or kind of half here, half there, or having one screen on my workplace whilst also then focusing on making content. And then the two didn't interfere with each other. That kind of wasn't the case last year. And it kind of, it kind of comes in peaks and troughs. So typically for myself, the August, September time is manic. It's busy because that's when we have new students coming in, and I'm basically tasked with making sure everything is ready. Same with around December. I'm basically shutting everything down, getting everything prepared for the next term, which starts in the January time. So again, January tends to be quite a busy time. So hence this month will be a busy time. And again, that tends to come around again around the June, July time. So every time there's a kind of term or semester or coming to an end, that's when I get the most busy, which is fine. That's not a problem. But what has come alongside this is the very real fact that I'm also still doing a lot of active projects. So, and these projects, they they are things that I love doing, and I wish I want to be able to share them and tutorialize them, and show you my journey, my progression, and keep you updated all that. But I'm not necessarily allowed to, or I can't via my channel, because my channel is run by me, solely by me, nothing associated with anybody or workplaces or anything that I'm otherwise associated with. Whereas my work obviously is, and the two things can't, they can't line up. We can't have that. It would cause problems, and it has actually caused an issue that has been resolved a few years ago, where the two were brought into question with the parallels. And there isn't a parallel. There are very different things, but you can see where the things come. One does educational videos for the public. One is working in an education sector, which is very much not public, if that makes sense. So that's where I've had to sort of draw the lines. I've always kept the two very divided: channel, weekends and evenings, workplace, Monday to Friday. Now, that was fine when the two don't when you don't get worn out by one to be at the other, and vice versa. So I never let my channel affect my work, and I never let my work affect my channel, or at least I've tried not to. But last year it did. My work did impede my ability to work on my channel, hence the lack of content. So what does this mean going forwards? That's the most important thing you'll probably want to know. Well, this will mean that videos will be sparse in comparison to 2020, 2021, where there was about 2 or 3 a week at one point, which was manic. And yes, a 15-minute video may not seem like a huge amount of work, but it is. I like to try and do a lot of pre-build, so to speak, a lot of testing beforehand before I actually create the video and then edit the video. And I am just me on my own doing that. So that's kind of, a 15-minute video would take me about a day to do, and then you're taking into account that's on top of other commitments I have. Obviously, I have to do the household chore sort of business, I have to do my workplace, I have to respond to people, I have external clients sometimes that are nothing related to work or my channel. There's other things I do involve that in terms of community stuff. So it kind of got a bit too much for me in that regard. But that was then. What I want to make sure that happens in 2023 is that we revitalize the channel. We kind of return, not necessarily to how it was in 2020, 2021, but we return to a state of semi-regularity where we have content, not necessarily every week, but at least enough quality content to actually keep people coming back and validate the subscriptions that people have. So that's partially the reason why things like on my website, the store, the content packs, they're kind of, a lot of them have gone on offline because I felt uncomfortable selling them at that at the price tag there's at. So everything got knocked down price wise. They will come back up on there, by the way, but they're going to be bundled into one package rather than lots of little packages, and it'll be a one-off, like £1 or £2, not sure yet. We'll see how much gets knocked off because I have to pay sort of VAT on that. So every sale actually I lose a little bit, so I have to compensate for that. So we'll see how that is, but I'm trying to make it as cheap as possible in that regard. To again try and add value where possible. So content wise, what I'm going to focus on largely is now the kind of production process. that may not necessarily line up with what everyone wants. I know Spark AR is something that I do get requests for to get back to, and it is something that I am going to go back to, and it is something that I've already made little footsteps into. You again, I don't want to go into any details, but there has been conversations in regards to Spark and how I'm going to go ahead with it. But I can't give an ETA on that. But all I can say is Spark AR should really be seen more now as Spark XR. That's all I'm going to say on that. So yeah, that's that. But what I'm going to focus on in the immediate future is active projects I'm doing that are personal projects and showcasing how those are going along. Now, these personal projects I'm trying to deliberately build in a way that they would work in the sense of being publicly available, shareable content, allowing you to see how 3D models are made, 3D scanning is made, how we create interactions in these game engines, etc. So that's going to be all publicly available. That's going to be Catalyst focused, but with a intention of creating the end product to be something that can then be packaged and reworked into a more institutional education focused method of delivery. What I mean by that is what I can share publicly has to be a kind of has to go between a certain level of accessibility and shareability, for it to not then be seen as a encroachment upon an institutional level of education, such as that you'd find in a school or a college or a university. So I have to keep the two levels of delivery different, mainly because what I'm kind of been delivering here is I'm trying to package into a way that can be delivered in a more institutional format down the line. So that's where that separation is. But that's the way I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to create, share the process, share the production, share everything I do publicly over here on the Catalyst channel. But when it comes to certain theoretical reasons or practical explanations of why certain choices have been made, that will be kind of drip fed more into an institutional method of delivery. If you are interested in me actually talking about the theory of certain technologies or practices, then there may be a space to put that onto the Catalyst channel. But I want to focus probably actually more on the practical development and the practical processes and the behind the scenes and how things are made, because I think that would probably be more interesting to a lot of you, to be honest, than a kind of lecture style delivery, if that makes sense. So that's the plan for this year. I want to make it very clear, I am not planning on stopping the channel. I am in fact I want to resume growing the channel and revitalizing the channel. I still have grand plans for the channel, but I've had to scale down to be more realistic. Financially, like a lot of people, it's not a great time to invest heavily in growth past a certain point, so it has to be kind of validated. So it's kind of more important in some ways to focus on generating growth from other avenues and where possible creeping it back into the channel, which is what I did at the beginning. But AdSense now can't support the channel as is, and I'm not going to restart Patreon or any of that nonsense. It will support itself. I will keep that being the way I want it to be. But the caveat is content just can't be 2-3 times a week. It just can't be. Not unless I had another pair of hands or other people involved, and can't afford that to be the case. That's just the nature of things, you know. And I want to be honest, you know. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm trying to be as honest as I can. Well, try to be. I am being as honest as I can. Sometimes a bit too honest, potentially. But yeah, But in terms of comments and replying to people, or anything you want to see, I'm happy for you to post anything you want to see on the channel in the comments, either on this video or on any future video. Ideally, though, try and keep to most recent ones, because YouTube Studio is not exactly great to go through the comments sometimes. So that's why some of those comments get missed, because I can't, moderate it as much as I'd love to be able to. Or you can always email help@catalystchannel.co.uk. That comes straight directly to me, and I'll try and respond to those emails or queries as quick as I can. So if there's anything you want to see, any questions you have, I will try and respond to them. There is also a form on the Catalyst Channel website that you can fill out if you have any queries or want to contact me directly. And then in terms of when to expect content, January just isn't going to happen. I actually this month is a really bad month for me. I'm actually having a root canal done later this month, and that's going to basically almost knock me for six for about 2 to 3 weeks, because it's got to be done in 2 parts, and annoyingly there's a gap between the 2 parts of it. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be 400 odd quid to get that sorted, but needs to be done. But yeah, so January, probably not going to expect a lot. You might see some things in the community things where I'll try and share behind the scenes stuff I'm working on, so so you can see what to expect coming up. February, March will be when we start to have more regularity coming to the channel. My goal is 2 videos a month. So instead of being 2 or 3 a week, it's going to be 2 a month. That's the goal. That's 1 every 2 weeks. And we will return to Spark AR, and we're going to look at Unreal, largely Blender, because those are 2 things I'm using a lot for projects at the moment. But again, if there's anything you particularly want to see, just let me know. Anyway, I thought I'd just do this little update. Hope everybody had a great Christmas and a great New Year, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye, and hopefully next time it won't be on a phone. Oh, that's not the right way to cancel. How do I end? Ah, there we go.